I've listened, as we all have, to the stories and the conversation around this legislation and the reasons for and the reasons against. And I listened to Senator Flexer, who said that more of us around the circle should know what that feels like. And I have great respect for all the senators around this circle. And I have great respect for the work that we do. So I thought perhaps I'll share my story and talk a little bit about how I got here and how I ended up to perhaps be on the opposite side of the conversation that some of my senators are talking about. And we're talking about how we got here. We all know my work history and my business. I talked a little bit the other day about my background, my grandfather from Sicily. And I think the longer you stand here and talk about these things, it becomes deeply personal. So, my story started on July 9th, 1964. I was 10, the oldest of 5 boys, when we got the news that my father had been killed. And it was left to my mother to raise those 5 boys. And of course, that's a life changer. And I had to go to work. I had to figure that out. She had to figure that out. We had to figure that out. And life's not fair. But we figured it out as a family. And the work that I did at the IGA around the corner at age 15, and the work that I did at the plumbing shop sorting copper at age 15 was not for the kids that most people had money for to go buy candy. It was to help us to eat. So I know what it's about to struggle. And I struggled for many years personally after that. And I worked my whole life. And when I decided to get into business for myself, I decided to fight for working people. So no one, neither side, not one party has the right to say that they work for working people. Because everybody does. We all do. In different ways and in different parts. So I made that my life's work. I've worked for myself most of my adult life. I'm an employer since 1983. I've created hundreds, if not thousands, of jobs. When we started that business, it was me and my wife. And over the years, we hired high school students. We hired single moms. And in each case, we've helped raise the quality of their life. I'm in the hospitality business, the service business, so this bill touches me on both sides of it. And I'm pleased to see that there was recognition after the Committee on Appropriations passed this out to reflect the right thing to do on the tip credit. Because tipped employees make multiples of the numbers that we're talking about today. But the other side of this bill will affect me in the back of the house. Dishwashers, prep cooks, cooks, and yes, rising tide, compression. But I want to talk about my business a little bit and how this will affect. And I want to talk a little bit about this legislation, because if we look at this legislation and the minimum wage raises that have occurred over time, I believe they're 2006, 2007, 2009, 2014, those wages went up an average of 45 cents each occurrence. This bill contemplates in 3.5 or 4 short years $1.90, $1.50, and $1.50. And I submit that might be a little aggressive. I submit that that might not be the incremental increases that will be good both for the people that are receiving that wage and for the people that are paying that wage. So I think that that should be altered in this bill, and I'm not, again, naive enough to think that this bill is not going to pass tonight. But again, I talked about my fight for working people. People that work hard in my restaurant and earn every penny that they make, whether they're back in the kitchen or out front. And that compression is a true event. And it's not that it's a bad thing people get a raise. It's not a bad thing at all. Nobody wants to have people work for money that they can't afford to live on. But businesses are a lifeblood of our economy. Small business creates 80% of the jobs in this country. 80%. Not Sikorsky's, not EB, not Pratt & Whitney, not Pfizer's. Small business. That's where the job creation is coming from. And the pressures that this assembly is putting on small business is making it difficult for small business to make the profits necessary so that they can continue to pay taxes, so they continue to employ people, so that they continue to invest in capital infrastructure, which raises the opportunity for property taxes, which raises the opportunity for community involvement, because that's what it's about. Everything's connected. You know, I often talk about government and business and community being like a blueberry pie. You take one slice out, the blueberries inch toward each other again, and everything's connected. And that's what's happening around here. We're talking about earned income, working for a living, and artificially setting or arbitrarily setting a rate for that income, I don't believe is the correct answer. I talked in appropriations the other day about prime costs. That's what I look for in my business to see if we're going to be profitable. Prime cost is simply the product cost and the labor cost added together. And I look at that prime cost. Certainly I am aware of the other overhead costs, but I look at that prime cost, and if it hits a number, then I start to become not profitable. And this bill will put pressures on that prime cost. When you talk about tolls, that's going to put pressure on the prime cost because it's going to raise the cost of goods that are coming into the restaurant or any business, because someone's going to have to absorb those extra costs. When you talk about adding specific taxes just for the privilege of being in a certain industry, a 1% extra sales tax or a 1.5% tax on a soda, that's going to put pressure on my prime cost. Because while a 20-cent tax on a Coca-Cola may not be all that expensive, I'm just wondering how many people are going to switch to water. My servers are still going to have to deliver that water, so it's not going to save me any money. All of the other stuff that we're talking about. There's been a lot of talk about women in the workforce tonight. I employ a lot of single moms. My business is predominantly women-run. 6 out of the top 8 people that are paid in my restaurant, the highest earners are women. And I will tell you that all 6 of those women started as servers, most of them over 20 years ago. All right. It's better than the hook they had on that show one time, right? But these women, these single moms, these great people that work for me each and every day, they help each other. That culture that we have there of those single moms helping each other, getting through the day and raising the quality of their life. They've been able to buy cars, they've been able to buy homes, they've been able to send their kids to college because they started at a low-paying job and they worked their way up and they earned. And what they gave to the business allowed us to prosper. High school kids from the high school that's right behind us, we hired a lot of those folks. We gave them chances, gave them their first jobs. And you know, when you're training a new student or you're training a new employee, in this case they'll get minimum wage, training wages. It takes two people. Somebody's got to take that person around the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 4 weeks, show them how to do their job. So at $15 an hour, that'd be not times one, that'd be times two that I'd be paying until that training. That's why there's a provision for a training wage. That's why I disagree with the change to 90 days, not measured 90 days, just an arbitrary block in time 90 days. You could work 4 days during that period of time. I could hire a high school kid the week before Christmas to peel all the help peel all the shrimp we need, and they wouldn't work again until perhaps April too much. They might work 2, 3, 4 shifts in the winter, get ready for summer. But by that time, according to this bill, the 90-day clock would be up. I'm going to tell you a story about Lucia. Lucia's worked for me for 22 years. She used to work at Howard Johnson's. I don't know if many of you are old enough in here to remember Howard Johnson's. That was down the street from us. But her driver used to bring her to Howard Johnson's every day. And the driver would come over and sit and have a cup of chowder and drop Lucia off. And then go pick her up a few hours later. And she came in one day and she was crying, the driver. And I said, "What's up?" She said, "You know, she goes in there, and those cooks, they push her down. They slap her in the back of the head. They make fun of her. They don't let her eat." So I said, "Well, this is what I'd like you to do. Tomorrow, don't bring Lucia there. Bring Lucia here. And Lucia can work here every day." And we created a job for Lucia. And she did. She's been there 22 years. And she's special. She's special in every way. She brings more joy to our business, more joy to our staff. But we're able to have Lucia there. I don't know what's going to happen with Lucia. She can't make that much money, or else she loses benefits. Lucia's parents are both deceased. I don't know what's going to happen with Lucia. But I would be greatly upset if this bill forced her not to be able to come 3 or 4 days a week to come see us. That's what's so important about a free market approach. We can take our passion, we can work our business, we can give back, we can fight for workers in the way that we fight for workers, by providing a quality of life, by providing them an opportunity, the same opportunity that I did when I first started, starting from nothing and working hard for much less than minimum wage, I can tell you that in those days. Taking a chance, growing our business, investing in that, working in the community. And those employees that I'm fighting for and who work awful hard for me and for the community and the people they serve, they get health insurance, for which I pay 50%. I offer them an opportunity to get pension, a 401 simple, which I match a portion of their pay. They get sick days. Their quality of life is first. They work a 5-day week. They can work 6 if they want. And if they have a Little League game or a band concert or a parent-teacher conference, they get to go to that first. That's how I'm fighting for people. So no one has the right to say that they fight for people and that this dollar amount is evidence of that. It's different than that. Businesses fight for people every day. We are the lifeblood of the economy here. The pressures that are being put on the businesses, both small and large, are real, and they're difficult. Working harder, longer, for less. And again, I'm not unique. I'm one of thousands in this state that do that. And we cannot keep putting pressure on those businesses. Or else what's going to happen is those 1,000 businesses out there that perhaps are like mine, maybe you'll lose 2 or 3 people, 4 people, 5 people. How many people is that, 1,000 times 4 or 5? And are we prepared to suffer that job loss? Automation, there's been some talk about automation. Technology. We all walk around with these things in our pocket that do more things than probably that first spaceship that sent to the moon. Automation is here. We all see it in McDonald's. We all see it in all of the places that we go. Kiosks for banking. I know somebody in the fulfillment business. And the fulfillment business is somebody that prepares orders for other people, like Publishers Clearinghouse, etc. And this fulfillment company sends out 15 to 20 million packages each year. They're very successful. And they hire a lot of people to put those packages together. And I was talking to them the other day, and they said, you know, it didn't pay for us to automate when minimum wage was $10 or $12 an hour. But it's going to pay for us to automate when minimum wage gets to $13.50 or $15 an hour. And so all those labels on those $20 million box, 20 million boxes are probably going to come out of a machine pretty soon. And we have to watch for that unintended consequence. Senator Sampson read off a few letters. Bigelow Tea, 70 years in Connecticut. 30% higher our costs to do business in Connecticut, but I love it here, than our facilities in Kentucky and Idaho. Unfortunately, this increase in minimum wage will significantly impact our opportunity to do business. This woman says, my small business began in Wethersfield in 2014, another in 2015, a food truck in 2016, more expansion in 2018. I employ over 40 people, ranging in age from 17 to 50. I pay them well and provide an excellent, respectful work environment. They make limited tips, but are not considered servers. My net profit was 10%. With this minimum raise, I will be out of business in October of 2019. Forget about 2021 and beyond. This next one, I work for 30 days to provide for my family as a single mom, and I'm vehemently against this idea. This increase will put me out of business. And then this one from a home care agency. They like the minimum wage idea. They think it's a good idea. But in the next sentence, they say, we have to as a state budget, in order for them to absorb this minimum wage and to take care of the people they take care of, we got to give them more money. Because their business is not sustainable. Their business model is not sustainable without the support from the state of Connecticut. So, Madam President, I hate that this is turning into a party conversation. This is a people conversation. And we need to have people conversations here. Because we all have stories like Senator Winfield and Senator Flexer and me, and probably many and all of you. But we have to find a way to work together, to talk together, to sit down in a way that bills like this come out so that they benefit everybody. It's win-win. Not an arbitrary number that says this job is now worth this, which means the guy that's making 12 now has to make 14, the guy that's making 14 now has to make 16. Everything bumps up. It's conversation, it's collaboration, it's communication, and it's common sense. That's what we need to do. One side shouldn't just be able to throw this out. And I would argue at 9 o'clock at night, no less. But that's where we are. So I lend my small voice and my little story about why I think this perhaps is not the best way, why I think that perhaps it may cost more jobs than create more jobs, why I think that small businesses, smaller than mine, I'm lucky enough to have a few employees, but small businesses with 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 may not be able to absorb that. And then what happens? And what happens to the community that we serve? So, Madam President, I just have well, no, maybe I won't for the moment. But I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be here to share this story because, as I told these high school kids that were here today, this is the greatest state and the greatest country in the world. And the message of this building is the history and the culture and the tradition that they see here and feel here each and every day. And that's what this is about. But this legislation is one-sided. We need to figure out a way to make it multiple-sided. So thank you, Madam President. I appreciate the opportunity to stand here and to share my voice.
Thank you, Senator Formica. Will you remark further? Senator Lesser.